let's get to the clip that will include Don's news capsule right after we hear from your friend and mine, Vinny Russo.
We're going to get right to the meat of the program here, but before we get Don Laible on the phone with us, we're here with our executive producer and the co-editor of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight Weekly, Vincent Russo. And Vincent, the first issue is out, and it's been mailed out to everybody, free of charge, the first one.
Yeah, the first issue is out, and hopefully the listeners will be getting it sometime this week, and it is hot.
It's a hot issue, and each and every week we will be covering wrestling and hope to entertain you. And what we're going to do for everybody right now, before we take phone calls, if you would like a free sample of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight Weekly newsletter, call now at 212-477-5610. We will be giving out free issues for those reachable to us on the telephone tonight. And what we're going to do right now is go to Don Laible with the news capsule of the week. Let's punch him up. Donnie, are you there?
Yes, I am, John. Good evening.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Lots happening this week, of course. As you alluded to earlier, WWF making headlines in the Post and around the talk circuit on the Hulk Hogan situation, and also WCW, some changes going on in the corporate structure down in Atlanta. Lots going on.
Yes, Kip Fry has been named the new Executive Vice President for World Championship Wrestling. We'll be talking to Dave Meltzer about that in just a little bit.
Alrighty, John, let's get right to the meat of the capsule. A familiar name that has been a stranger to the wrestling community during the past couple of years leads off the capsule. Former wrestling star Big John Studd has struck a deal with boxing promoter Don King to begin a partnership. At a press conference in Midtown last Tuesday, Studd revealed some of his promotional ambitions concerning the boxing and wrestling worlds. February 15th is scheduled to be Studd and King's first venture in boxing, and plans for a wrestling pay-per-view are being laid out for year's end. More details on Big John's newest venture should be known later this week. World Wrestling Federation's Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Saggs, were injured last Sunday after leaving an arena in Peoria, Illinois. Now, while driving away, a car of three men followed and harassed the tag team. When Knobbs confronted the three at a stoplight, a scuffle occurred, and when it was all over, Knobbs was stabbed 4 times, 3 in the arm and once in the stomach. And Saggs was hit over the head and received a concussion. They were both treated at Peoria's Methodist Hospital and later released. Keeping with the WWF, next Sunday is their annual pay-per-view of the Royal Rumble. For those of you driving up to the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, you want to get off on the New York State Thruway at exit 23. Also, watch for an announcement from the Federation for a special live on the Fox Network for February 8th. Some news around the wrestling globe as of late. Last Monday in San Juan, Puerto Rico, it was Miguelito Perez coming out ahead of Greg the Hammer Valentine to gain the Caribbean Championship. Johnny Ace will be Stan Hansen's regular tag team partner in the Orient for 1992. And speaking of Japan, for All Japan Wrestling's upcoming tour in February, look for Andre the Giant, Dory Funk Jr., Terry Gordy, and Steve Williams. They're all booked for it. That according to the Wrestling Observer. And finally, as John alluded to earlier, Jim Herd, Executive Director of World Championship Wrestling since Ted Turner's organization purchased the promotion, has been given his walking papers. Kip Fry, an attorney for TBS, has been given the reins on an interim basis. And finally, a programming note for this coming Friday at 9 p.m. on CBS television. Former wrestling heavyweight champion Terry Funk appears on a new series, Tequila and Bonetti. Capsule time, 10:12.
And there you have it. Goodbye, Jim Herd.
Yeah, a lot of people celebrated that. I mean, Herd was an albatross when it came to running WCW, and just a cantankerous guy. One of the biggest reasons Cornette left, and with his departure and Kip Fry coming in, I mean, before you know it, Jim Cornette is back. Don, you have much recollection about this stuff? I mean, with Jim Herd?
Yeah, it's interesting that this comes up again, because if I'm not mistaken, Jim Herd was probably the most unpopular executive with WCW, and Kip Fry, at least what I remember when he came in, was the most popular leader of WCW. And I don't think that Kip Fry lasted that long, but it seemed like the attitude was more positive amongst the boys with him as opposed to what they had to deal with Jim Herd.
Yeah, and the media treatment was much better when Kip Fry took over. Bob, I don't know if you remember or not, but when he took over, he had an event, I believe it was in Kansas City, where he invited all the wrestling media to show up. And I went to that, and we'll be covering that here on the show. But that was something that really was never done before. You know, he welcomed everyone to this press conference, to one-on-one interviews. I remember Dusty, was Dusty Rhodes there or not? He might have been. I don't remember now about Dusty. So, but I do remember going to that event in Kansas City, and I thought it was awesome that you have an executive like that was opening his arms up to the wrestling media.
Well, you know, putting 1,000 people in a 20,000 seat hockey arena will tend to change attitudes. And, but to play devil's advocate at this point, WCW was turning it around a little bit. Cactus Jack was in, Rick Steamboat was in. They brought Rick Rude in.
Was Dusty there at the time, Bob?
I think he still was, yeah.
Yeah, because I do remember, because I think I brought that magazine when I wrestled him, and he signed it at that Kansas City event, if I'm not mistaken. But I guess we'll discover it in weeks to come.
You know, his role would flip-flop back and forth throughout his whole career. I mean, sometimes, you know, I don't know when he lost the book there. I don't have specific dates on it, but, you know, he may have hung on to perform.
Yeah,
at that point.
But so, you know, it was a new era.
Yeah. Don, do you have any recollection of that at all? What may have happened with Dusty at that point?
I don't. And I tend to agree with what you said. He would hang on as a performer, because sooner or later, wherever the dream was, he ended up getting the pencil. So depending on who's leading the organization at that time, he probably was still hanging around there to be on the committee or to be the booker.
Yeah, but that was about to enter a really cool era for WCW. I mean, you know, the Dangerous Alliance, and then Cornette comes back. And I think in the middle of the year, doesn't Bill Watts also make a return early in 92?
I think that's about right. And even that didn't work out great, did it? I mean,
no.
We'll be getting into that, I'm sure, in future.
We will, yeah. But I just all these flashbacks are just popping into my head because at the same time I was doing the newsletter with Russo, and I do remember a cover story about Watts coming in and the Dangerous Alliance. So anyway, we'll be covering that. We got a lot to go over, but right now my head is like it's almost like it's been warped back into 1992 all of a sudden.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. Flashbacks. I thought only drugs did that to you.
Well, Don, any other recollections of this particular clip or of that era?
Well, you know, what was interesting is because, you know, I was good friends with John Studd, and I totally forgot about what we just played there with him and coming to some agreement with Don King. And I still can't remember, thinking of it now, that whatever became of Watt at that time with John. He died not much longer after that too. After the 91.
Did he end up boxing? I think he did.
I don't think so, because he got sick, and then he was sick for about a year, and then he passed. And I always like to say, you know, some people, when you learn about what people do when nobody's watching, that to me, that's you know what they really like. And when John was close to dying, Billy Graham called him often and would pray with him on the phone and would talk to him, and it could have been the day before he passed. Billy Graham would speak with him on the phone, so that always made me feel good. But I don't remember anything to do with the Don King thing, and it's probably because he got sick.
Well, we will have a little spoiler alert here. Next week's taping, and I haven't even heard the show yet, but I have it listed here because I have all the tapes in front of me that are going to cover the next few months. On the January 19th, 1992, show number 143, special guest, John Studd.
Well, there we go.
We'll get to the bottom of it then.
So we will get to the bottom of it for sure.
Oh, John, you're like Johnny Carson with his crystal ball. That's very good.